In this video, we're going to look at the process of gathering data from a web source and translating it into a format from which we can make a graph to visualize it. This example is the cost of living increase for Social Security, historic data going back to 1975, available from the Social Security Administration. As you can see, the data is lined up in a neat column format here. And if I want to highlight it and copy it, it comes out simple enough. My goal is to put this into a spreadsheet, like Google Sheets. And from here I can simply paste the data, and if I'm very lucky, it will come out neatly formatted and looking perfect. Otherwise, it will come out looking like this. It looks as if the format is incompatible with the spreadsheet program, so I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to go to a simple text editor, like Notepad. If I paste that data into this source, it will remove all the formatting and convert it to simple plain text. From here, I can select all, copy, then go back to my spreadsheet program, and if all goes well, I can paste again, and this time the data come up neatly formatted into two columns. They're not quite ready to go though. As you can see, there are some additional rows inserted here that correspond to the separate columns, the headers for the columns in the original source data. So we need to do some cleanup. And in this case, it just consists of removing a few rows, delete, and removing again these rows from the third column. You will notice there's a little bit of additional cleanup required as well. 1999, the year, is showing up with the letter A next to it, and it's not formatted the same as the other values. If you look in the source data, you'll see in 1999 there's a footnote added to the source data explaining that the value was adjusted, and that's nice, but for our visualization purposes, we want this to be consistent with the other rows. So I'll simply remove that letter A. And now all these year values are formatted the same way. They're in sequential order, along with their corresponding cost of living adjustments. I could convert this into a percentage, but if I do that, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to multiply by 100 to convert these percentages, and it wouldn't quite look the way we want it to. So these numeric values are actually quite fine. What these correspond to, by the way, is the percentage by which Social Security payments were adjusted for their respective year to account for inflation, the cost of living adjustment. So you can look at data like this without having too much trouble interpreting it, and you can see that in 1980, for example, there was a high value of 14.3, and in several years there was a value of 0, so there was no increase in the payments. But it would be easier to make a graph to be able to interpret this data. So you could glance at it and in a moment see the trends right away. So in this spreadsheet program, Google Sheets, all I have to do is highlight these two columns, click on the letter for the column, and I hold down the Shift key and click the other one. I've got both columns selected, and if I go to Insert, Chart, Google Sheets will pop up automatically with a chart created from these, and the chart type is one of these suggested values. It automatically interprets the data I've got highlighted and comes up with some suggested types of charts or graphs. And if I look at these, you can see there are several different valuable visualizations here. The ones that are not suggested are still available. I can convert into those if I like, but not all of those are going to be intuitive or even appropriate for this data. Going back to the simple line graph, this makes it very easy to interpret this data in chronological order. A line graph is perfect for chronological data when you're looking at two-dimensional data with the x-axis representing the year and the y-axis representing the percentage cost of living adjustment. And you can see that high of 1980 occurring right here. That's the year in which Ronald Reagan was elected. Before that, there was some pretty serious inflation. And in the 1980s, the economy picked up, so very likely this sharp decline is associated with that, although we have to be careful not to assume too much from the data. But you can clearly see trends, which over time have been downward since the 1970s, And since then, not much fluctuation greater than 5%. You're typically within 0 to 5% in the last 30 years, for better or worse. In any case, that's the process of extraction, transform, and load, or ETL.